This is why no one ever sleeps in the ocean. Stéphane Granzito, a French photographer and videographer, was photographing sperm whales for a picture book when he came across an unexpected scenario. The whales were just standing in the water without moving, but the reason for this turned out to be much stranger. What would you think if you saw a bunch of whales organized vertically and wondered whether they were talking with the highest extraterrestrial intelligence? No, it's strange, but there's a reasonable explanation for it. Every creature on the planet, from elephants to jellyfish, humans to insects, need to rest from time to time. Some of them, like domestic cats, spend a lot of time napping, while others, like whales, float in the middle of the ocean like giant fishing floats. But this only lasts about a week. Is this considered sleeping? It's difficult to fall asleep in such a short period of time, especially if your eyes are still observing everything around you. Some experts believe that during a brief rest, whales remain awake with half of their brains functioning, making it impossible to term it a regular sleep. However, is there any other way to sleep when you can be attacked at any time? Whales can't fully fall asleep since they have to manage their breathing, which is uncomfortable. Humans do not need to do anything to maintain breathing. Their bodies will take care of it on their own. However, whales live underwater and must continuously monitor whether or not they are able to breathe. Remember this, I'll come back to it later. Whales, on the other hand, not only have total control over their breathing, but also understand how to transfer oxygen to the appropriate organs. For example, if the animals are not utilizing anything other than their brains and fins at the present, these organs will receive all of the oxygen. When the stomach has nothing to digest, why give food to it? After all, if you live underwater, your life literally depends on it. Therefore, you should preserve your oxygen just like you would your energy. Is there any other way to be safe from outside threats? I don't know. Dive deeper. Each species can dive to different depths without risk to the body, so maybe the whales are trying to dive to the very bottom so that some great white shark does not notice them. Sounds logical, so we'll put it down in the textbooks. Thankfully, whales do not sleep by diving too deep. Instead, they must periodically surface to breathe. Great white sharks, on the other hand, prefer deep water. Thus, the odds of them attacking sleeping whales are minimal. Orcas, on the other hand, see this as a nice living habitat where they can swim and feed. Perhaps whales congregate in groups to defend themselves from orcas, although I'm not sure how this would help. The only thing that can save resting whales is quickness of reaction. They instantly awaken and attempt to swim as far away from danger as possible. It's a little humiliating that even if you're a massive beast, you still have to escape to prevent being eaten. Despite this, the whales manage to strike the right equilibrium. They can't get too close to the surface since there are sun rays and seagulls overhead, and diving any deeper isn't an option because the water pressure increases as you dive deeper. I doubt any of the sperm whales are upset by this. After all, they are tougher than humans, but why take a chance when you can avoid it? After all, it's freezing below, and who wants to sleep in the cold? Especially when you're a whale and need to keep your massive bulk at a constant temperature. Remember that whales must continually breathe, which necessitates their surface appearance. You've probably seen how whales breathe, and these fountains are the consequence of the whales having to spout water out their blowhole and swish to take a breath. They need to do it every few minutes. Depending on the species, it's unlikely that at least one whale would dare dive closer to the bottom if it might be too deep to take a breath of air in time. The whales appear to take a breath and plunge into the water, but not too deep, before gradually returning to the surface. The configuration of the internal organs in the whale's head is thought to make the head significantly lighter, causing whales to freeze vertically at some point. Whales are too cautious to swim away at the first sign of danger, so catching them when they're relaxing takes a lot of luck. When a party of researchers spotted sleeping sperm whales in 2008, they attempted to flee as quietly and cautiously as possible. But as usual, everything worked out. They pushed one of the resting whales, startling the entire group. And why, if the whales are observing everything that happens around them, did they not swim away as soon as the ship approached? Perhaps it's because the ship isn't an orca after all. When it comes to whales, everything is quite apparent. But what about the rest of the sea creatures? Can non-mammals, such as fish, go asleep by closing their eyes and relaxing? No, because there is no dust beneath the sea, and fish do not have eyelids to close their eyes. The anatomy of the eyes, however, is not the sole distinction. When individuals sleep, several parts of the brain, particularly the neocortex, become less active. The neocortex is the layer that handles the greatest cognitive abilities, yet fish lack one. As a result, their sleep will be very different. In a strict sense, this isn't even dreaming, but rather a state of suspended animation in which the fish rests. Its duration is determined by the species, its surroundings, and a variety of other variables. Fish, for example, do not appear to try to take a rest during migrations, or perhaps they sleep while moving. Why not relax and swim at the same time, as a fish sleeping is still not sleeping in the traditional sense? Scientists are still baffled as to why fish don't sleep. There are really too many species and situations to investigate. Even the cases of suspended animation that have been identified so far are quite diverse. Some coral fish hide between the reef branches to avoid being washed away by the current, and the parrotfish even secretes a mucus cocoon that shields it from parasites and hides it from predators. Would you prefer to sleep in a saliva-filled sleeping bag? It's too early to draw any conclusions until scientists have conducted adequate research, but it appears to me that fish don't sleep much. It's difficult to get a good night's sleep when there's always the risk of being eaten. And then I wondered, what if people behaved in the same way? No burrowing in the sand for a nap, but resting for a couple of hours. Spoiler alert, nothing good will happen. An adult requires an average of 7 to 10 hours of sleep per night. If you don't get enough sleep, you'll lose focus, your mood will shift, and it will be difficult to react quickly to what is going on. You know how sleep deprivation works, and if you don't get enough sleep, you'll suffer from obesity, diabetes, stroke, and high blood pressure. But why did the geniuses sleep so little? You've certainly heard stories like Einstein getting enough sleep in 3 hours and being so clever because of it. The truth is that the brilliant scientist enjoyed sleeping for at least 10 hours and felt fantastic. Nikola Tesla, who couldn't bear wasting time sleeping, admitted to sleeping no more than 2 hours each day, despite the fact that he was a genius who had more than one mental breakdown at the same time. Tesla's father received a letter from university academics stating that unless he was removed from the school, Tesla would die from overworking himself. But let's leave the geniuses alone and return to the whales, who are a Tesla-like creature. Well, in terms of resting time, keep in mind that they have total control over their breathing. And here's the fact that whales may really drown, which has happened previously. Normally, whales can exactly calculate their dive timing, speed, and depth. However, they occasionally find themselves along the coast, where the water is too shallow to swim in, but deep enough to reach the blowhole. Because whales have lungs, the animals are unable to breathe and drown. Underwater, fish have no trouble breathing, but only if there is adequate oxygen in the water. A tiny body of water may become suffocating if there are too many animals in it. Fish may suffocate, and anybody who has ridden crowded buses in hot weather knows how uncomfortable it can be. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and see you soon.